being a woman, and have you had any challenges or any opportunities that have differentiated your experience in the many sectors that you have been, and can you talk to like any salient experience that you've had given your identity?
Yeah, yeah, I think, like the psychology of being like a tall male, I think it's definitely like leadership and the things that they say from a psychological perspective, like the research shows that you do pay more attention to that. And I learned that in psychology in school, so I was kind of aware of it in my like professional life. But I think like actually being in like this minority community really helps because you have like a tight-knit community. So especially at McKinsey, there were a lot of like women that helped me on my journey, and I still like keep in touch with them like 2-3 years after, like with and I think like they've been there for me when I'm like really upset that something's not working out on my project, or like I'm trying to figure out how to get promoted, like how do I approach this, how do I build my case, or just like even fun, like Friday, just like, what did you do this week? And, just having like, understanding their experiences. So I think being a woman definitely helps you, like in that sense, and finding like that tight-knit group. And also like wherever you are, you can also like lift other women who are like in previous, maybe 2 or 3 years before you. And I think that's really powerful, because I think it's just to know like what else is out there. And I think one more thing about like being women and female, like the empathy aspect, like I think really play that to your advantage. And it's not to say like males don't have it, because they definitely do. But I just think, lean into that EQ, like the emotional intelligence, because things like that really matter in your career, and like talking to a potential employer, or like convincing the CEO to do a certain strategy. So I think, like lean into your skills, use like the advantages that it gives you, like that community, and maintain that network.
Right. No, for sure. That's super interesting, and I'm sure will be very valuable advice for everyone listening to this. Another thing that I kind of wanted to ask was, I also was in student consulting for nonprofit organizations, and I also have I just came into college with like a gazillion different interests, and it seems like you've been in fashion, beauty, consulting, you've been around. So kind of, and I'm sure that applies to many young women and many all kinds of students. What would your advice be in terms of kind of crafting that path when you feel like you're kind of overwhelmed with so many different routes that you can take, and kind of not being hesitant to explore, and like not being pressurized to decide really early on, what would your advice be to very enthusiastic young students that might be listening to this?
Yeah, I think it's like understanding what you're passionate about and what you're curious to learn. Because all these different subject areas, like in their higher levels, it's going to require like a lot of effort and thinking through that same kind of like maybe problem set. And so I think one thing is to really understand like what kind of things like really make you curious, and like having that self-awareness for that. And I think, I mean, I was there too. I was like originally started pre-med, and, was also curious about econ just for like understanding, like I thought it would be a lens to understand the world. So, and all the different like student groups. So yeah, it is a lot, but I would say like every quarter, like focus on 2 to 3 things if you can, and really put your effort in that. Because if you just do a little bit of everything, you're not going to really understand like what makes that special, or like what its like strengths and advantages. You're just going to have like a very not as deep as a point of view. So I would encourage you to focus on 2 to 3 things, and like to understand like what is like the ultimate goal of it. Like, is it a creative pursuit that you want to explore? Like I started a photography club when I was on campus because I was curious about photography, and my best friend was really a talented photographer and I wanted to learn, and I saw like that there was no club, so I created it so I could learn about photography techniques. So it's also like creative pursuits, but then also like what are you curious about? And like for me, economics, I didn't think like I would be curious about it, but like taking that first intro to micro class like really helped me understand like, oh, this is such a neat way to like analyze a topic or like explain a phenomenon in this like very like, you know, there's a model, like a simplified model, simplified assumptions, like what you can get from it, like fully understanding the limitations of like explaining like real life events. So it's kind of like understanding like your curiosity and passion and like focusing on 2 to 3 things, I would say.